Cuba and the U.S. have had odd relations for the longest time. Why have people traveled illegally from Cuba to the U.S.? Why did the custody battle happen for Elian Gonzales? Why can't the U.S. trade with Cuba? This will all be explained.
These stories are very tragic. Here's the Cuba and U.S. relations timeline.
In 1959, Fidel Castro leads Cuba and generally strengthens alliance with the Soviet Union.
This worried the United States. In 1961, the Bay of Pigs invasion in Cuba was a disaster. It was an uprising to get rid of Fidel Castro, but it failed.
In 1962, the full trade embargo was in place that prohibits all trades. Also in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis took place. When the Soviet Union began to put nuclear weapons in Cuba, the U.S. did not want this and had to negotiate with the Soviets.
In 1980, the Mariel Boatlift took place. This was when boatloads of Cuban refugees sailed to Florida, about 125,000 Cubans in total. In 1982, the U.S. labels Cuba a terrorism sponsor. In 1994, the rule was made that Cubans from sea go home and Cubans that came from land can stay in the U.S. This made it difficult for Cubans to immigrate to the U.S.
In 1999, Elian Gonzales came to the U.S.
It was a major news story. In 2009, Obama signs the potential thaw between Cuba and the U.S. In 2015, Cuba was removed from the terrorism list. Obama travels to Cuba in 2016. In 2017, Trump reinstates travel and business restrictions. Understanding the history between U.S. and Cuba is very important. The U.S. embargo on Cuba was one of the most crucial events. In 1962, John F. Kennedy placed an embargo on Cuba. The embargo stated no trade or travel could happen. This was the longest enduring trade embargo in the history and is still lasting till today. The embargo didn't just restrict trades of goods, but trade of information, dissemination, and humanitarian service. The embargo cost the U.S. economy $1.2 billion, and Cuba $753.69 billion. The embargo has undergone many changes through the time, and here are some of the biggest ones. In 1977, the U.S. resumed diplomatic exchange. In 1992, U.S. tightens embargo after the Soviet Union collapse. In 1996, Clinton signs to tighten the embargo again. In 2017, Trump tightens restrictions after the 2019 potential thaw with Obama. Cuban immigration and why are Cubans immigrating? Cubans have been immigrating for the longest of time, and the numbers have only grown over the years. The number of Cubans living in the U.S. was estimated in 2016 to be 1.3 million. That's 3% of total immigrants in the United States. Here are three main reasons why Cubans are leaving Cuba. 1. Transportation. 2. Financial. 3. Politics. And 4th, lack of opportunity in Cuba. There are many financial problems in Cuba because salaries aren't enough for 90% of the population to live on, and all the prices of goods keep on rising over the years. Many people take public transportation in Cuba, which it has been one of the most oldest problems in all of Cuba's history. There are a lack of vehicles, and they're always aging, and there's always a lack of spare parts. So there's less drivers, which is more wait time for the customers, and bus fares are getting very expensive. Politics are a problem in Cuba. Cuba is one of the only countries that you can go to prison for going against Cuba. And many people don't agree with the politics, but of course they don't want to go in jail, so they just flee to America. There is a lack of opportunity in Cuba. Many business owners in Cuba are local Cubans themselves. When these business owners don't get enough money, they can't hire anyone to work for them, which means there is a lack of jobs, which brings us back to the financial part where people aren't getting enough from their salary. And now for the story of Elian Gonzales.
Elian traveled to the U.S. when he was just 5 years old. He traveled to the U.S. with his mother and 11 other people on the 21st of November in 1999. Elian's mother and most of the others drowned going to Miami. He was found at sea by two fishermen off the coast of Florida. From Cuba, Elian's father called his relatives in Miami to find out if the person who was rescued was Elian. After getting medical treatment, Elian was put into the hands of Gonzales, his great-uncle. Elian's father publicly spoke out in Cuba he wanted his son to be returned to him. Fidel Castro, the president of Cuba, called for the return of Elian in 72 hours, or he would do a mass protest. On the 13th of December, Elian's relatives in Miami filed for his custody. About a month later, Elian's father is free to go to get Elian from Cuba, but his father wanted the U.S. to return Elian. In Miami, Elian's great-uncle was given temporary protective order over Elian. Eventually, Elian's father showed up to the United States on a visa. Elian was forcefully taken from his relatives' home in Miami by immigration officials in a down raid. Where is Elian now? Elian had returned back to his father in Cuba and stayed in hiding from the cameras till recently. Before Fidel Castro died, Elian got very close to him. Fidel came to most of his birthday parties after he returned to Cuba. They got so close, Elian even said to CNN News, "Fidel Castro's like a father to me. I don't profess to have any religion, but if I did, my God would be Fidel Castro." Elian is currently studying engineering at a military school in Cuba. Elian is also speaking out against U.S. politics in Cuba. One day, Elian wants to return to the U.S. to give his regards to his Miami family. How the two countries have changed ever since Elian Gonzales came to America. Ever since Elian Gonzales left America to go back to Cuba, the two countries seemed to work better with each other. The first step that the two countries took was in 2009 when Obama signed the potential thaw. The next step the two countries took was from 2011 to 2013, where Obama was allowing Cuban citizens to buy and sell their own real estate.
In 2014, Cuba hosts the regional summit and tries to restore ties with the U.S. In 2015, Cuba is removed from the terrorism list, and then in 2016, Obama takes a trip to Cuba. In 2017, Donald Trump is elected for president, and then things start going downhill with the relations when Trump reinstates the embargo. Now the two countries seem fine even though the trade embargo is still active. Cuban immigration and the story of Elian Gonzales is very tragic. Many Cubans immigrate to America every year. Whether you're sent back home or you show up on the news like Elian Gonzales did, all the Cuban immigrants have a reason why they travel to the U.S. Either it's with public transportation, financial, lack of opportunity, or the politics. Everyone comes here because of something. Even though Cuba and the United States have had their differences, immigrants still keep on coming in. Many events have taken place over these years of their bad relations, such as the Bay of Pigs, the Mariel boat lift, and the trade embargo being in place. Cuba and the United States have had their bad relations over the past years. The trade embargo was in place in 1962, and it prohibits all trades, and it has gone through many phases over the years.
Now you know about the complex history between the U.S. and Cuba, why people immigrate from Cuba to the U.S., and who Elian Gonzales is. Thanks for watching.